All right, let's talk about what happens when you take on a 30-day jump rope challenge, especially when you're someone who loves lifting weights, but let's be honest, absolutely hates cardio. The thinking was, hey, this looks easy enough. Spoiler alert, it was not. Not at all. Yeah, that quote right there, that pretty much sums up the first few days perfectly. The reality of learning to jump rope from scratch is, well, it's a special kind of painful. It's mostly just whipping yourself with a rope and wondering why you ever thought this was a good idea. You know, the craziest part is the huge gap between how it looks and how it feels. You see boxers do it, and it's like poetry in motion, totally effortless. But for a total beginner, your first day is just a non-stop cycle of trip, reset, trip, reset. It is humbling, to say the very least. So to really get why this was such a struggle, you have to understand the starting line. This wasn't some endurance athlete trying a new workout. This was a guy who was genuinely strong, but had, let's just say, terrible conditioning. So check this out, 18 pull-ups in a row. Pretty strong, right? But put this same guy on a treadmill for 5 minutes and he's completely done for. This whole challenge was about looking that weakness right in the eye. And oh boy, did he get a dose of reality. The very first attempt to jump continuously lasted a whopping 30 seconds. That was it. But here's where things got interesting. He found that switching to a heavier 1-pound rope actually helped. It moves slower, you see, so it gives your brain a chance to feel the timing and start building that rhythm. Okay, so let's get into that first week because it was less about making progress and more about just pure survival. This is where all the classic beginner mistakes and all the pain that comes with them really made an appearance. He was making 2 huge mistakes right off the bat. First, instead of just using his wrist to turn the rope, he was swinging his entire arms around like helicopter blades, which you can imagine absolutely destroyed his shoulders. And second, he was jumping like 6 inches off the ground every single time, like he was trying to dunk a basketball. Just a massive waste of energy. Another huge problem was his gear. Turns out, if your rope is too long, it actually bounces off the ground funny and smacks you right in the shins. The rule of thumb is really simple. Step on the middle of the rope, and the handles should come right up to your armpits. Getting that length right made a world of difference. And, well, this quote pretty much paints the picture of what happens when you get that rope length wrong. A weighted rope hitting your shin bone is a very unique and special kind of pain. It was a rough lesson, but it definitely made him fix his form. All right, so after a week of pain and adjustments, we get to the real turning point. And the funny thing is, it had nothing to do with physical ability. The biggest wall he hit, believe it or not, was completely mental. So he did what we all do when we're struggling, right? He went straight to YouTube. He watched every tutorial out there, took tons of notes, and then tried to think about 7 different things at once while jumping. And you know what happened? He got worse, way worse. It was total analysis paralysis. The more he thought, the more he tripped. And here it is. This was the breakthrough. It happened when he was just so tired, so exhausted, that his brain was too fried to overthink every tiny little movement. His body just took over. He stopped thinking, and he just started doing. Turns out his body knew the rhythm the whole time. His brain was just getting in the way. And that was the moment it all finally clicked into place. He was just warming up, not really paying attention, and then he suddenly realized he'd been jumping for over a minute straight without a single mistake. He went from being, embarrassingly bad to just kind of mediocre. And let me tell you, it felt like winning a gold medal. So with that breakthrough, the whole journey shifted. It wasn't about just trying to survive the workout anymore. It was about actually building a skill, gaining some confidence, and even tackling new moves. And you can just see the progress explode here. I mean, from a pathetic 30 seconds on day 1 to hitting 50 jumps in a row, to unlocking new techniques, and then finally, by day 30, being able to go for over 10 minutes straight. The improvement wasn't just small, it was huge. But of course, just when he thought he had it all figured out, he decided to learn a new skill, the alternate feet style, kind of like running in place. And it was just so frustrating. It felt like being zapped right back to day 1. He couldn't nail the timing, and he'd find himself just awkwardly shuffling forward across the room. Now, the fix for this was completely weird and backwards. A tutorial actually said to stop looking down at your feet and just stare at a wall instead. It felt like he was jumping blind, but it worked. It actually worked. Suddenly, the rhythm wasn't something he was seeing, it was something he was feeling. And just like that, the new technique clicked.
Okay, so after 30 days of pain, frustration, and those amazing breakthroughs, what was the final verdict? What did he actually get out of this whole thing?
The results were pretty clear. His cardio was way, way better. He lost a little weight, got more toned, and he recovered faster between his lifting sets. But the single biggest win, the most shocking result of all, it actually became fun. Like, genuinely fun. Way more fun than staring at a wall on a treadmill, that's for sure. Now, a quick word on the gear he used. It was one of those weighted rope systems. That heavy 1-pound rope was a total game changer for learning the rhythm in the beginning. Then, once his technique got better, he switched to a lighter 1/4-pound rope to work on speed. You could probably do it with a cheap rope, but this system definitely made the learning curve a little less painful. Ultimately, this slide just says it all. To go from someone who couldn't even jump for 10 seconds without getting tangled up to someone who can go for 10 minutes, that's a massive transformation. It just goes to show you what happens when you stick with something, even when it's super frustrating. And I love this because it's so real. This isn't about becoming some kind of jump rope ninja in 30 days. It's about progress. It's about moving better, feeling better, and finally being able to breathe during a cardio workout. So what's the real takeaway here? It's that learning something new requires you to be okay with sucking at it for a while. His journey seems to suggest it takes about 17 days of pure frustration, of tripping over your own feet and taking a few hits to the ego before you get that magic moment where it all just clicks. So the real question is, are you willing to pay that price? Because on the other side of that struggle is a skill that's not just good for you, but is actually, believe it or not, a lot of fun.